It's the late 20th century. Hyper-industrialization has swept the planet. The old Bourbon Empire has crumbled, giving way to the United Atlantic States and the first elected megacorporation president in history, Starch Cola. As sea levels rise, cities have become polluted islands. Workers dream of escaping to the fields, an exclusive retirement district few will ever see. Rival corporations vie for power, policed by privatized Starch Cola enforcers. Some say justice now only exists in the shadows. Me, I'm a goddamn nobody. I was born right here in the capital, New Starch City. Parents were murdered in a protest. I simply slipped through the cracks. The name's James Farrow. I spend my days on the streets, talking to other homeless, warming ourselves by barrel fires. I survive off the occasional odd job from my local diner. Spouses looking for evidence of cheating, people wanting others beaten down in the streets, vandalism, and the occasional arrest because the enforcers are too goddamn lazy to do it themselves. Pick up a job for humiliation. They tell me to pick up a payphone on Peak Parade. But I'm too stupid to know where that is, and another paycheck slips through my fingers. The next job, an arrest for the enforcers. A woman by the name of Shauna Sams. I head to the city's office and pick up tools for the job. Some handcuffs and an incapacitator grenade. Non-lethal, but enough to knock a crowd on their asses. I find Sams in the city directory. She lives at 902 Clark Terrace. I make my way through the streets to her apartment, and I take the stairs because I'm fat and need the exercise. Too much Starch Cola. No one's home, and there's no spare key under the mat, so I break in. Steal her birth control. She's a lesbian, and she won't be needing it in prison. She works as the head of HR at a small company. Might have to track her down there. I learned that she has IBS. Seems Our Lady has a penchant for shitting her pants. She seems to mix her medication. IBS, depression, insomnia, and painkillers. This bitch has problems. Maybe some time in the can will do her some good. There's nothing else of note in her home, so I decided to track her down at work. Consult Clerical. A small office, but it's more locked down than Fort Knox. I'll wait for her outside. "2:30 p.m. I get a little parched and go grab some water while I wait. I spill it on the floor. And Sam's finally makes her appearance. Probably back from a bout of IBS. She takes my water and heads back to the restroom, probably to shit in my cup. She comes out, and I decide to make my move. I toss the grenade, and before I can lock up this hardened criminal, one of her gang members shoots me in the side of the head. I wake up in the hospital, recovering from my recent head trauma. I move for Plan B. I head back to her apartment, but before I can even make it in the door, that can wait. I need revenge. I go back inside. No one's home. So I lay my trap. I set an office chair facing the door, waiting for the criminal scum. My next check. Someone finally comes to the door. Instead of Sam's, it's her lesbian lover. I try to take her out, but she guts me like a fish, putting me back in the hospital. If I'm gonna get Sam's, I need money. Murder case money.
Officers, be advised. We have a 1054 in basement number 4 of Park Tower. Victim was DOA.
My first murder after getting my PI license a few years back. The Crimson Scourge. The victim was reported in basement room 4 of Park Tower. A dead man in a dingy room. Blood on the floor. Fingerprints. Type A on the doorknob. The victims. Shot to death by a shotgun in his own home. I find a note in his belongings. A woman has been following him. The classic femme fatale. Finally, a clue. Type B fingerprints on the door. Our killer. I move the body, and I get a bit of his poop on my fingers. I'm too stinky, so I use the dead man's shower. He's too dead to care. I find 2 sets of footprints on the ground. Size 11 heels and size 8 boots. Foolishly, I think our femme fatale has big feet, but our victim just liked to wear heels. Possible motive. Gay. Under a box in the corner, I find a note with a cipher. MDU Santa. But I'm too stupid to decipher it without some clues. With limited clues and no strong leads to go on, I head for the victim's place of work. The Royal Bourne Corporation. A small locked office, so I break in. Within seconds, I find our primary suspect. MDU Santa. N. Matsuda. The dumb bitch. A good start. A really good start. But I need more info. In the manager's office, I find some damning evidence of her character. A drug addict, erratic, and the worst of all, stinky. But I dug for too long, and before I got out, Matsuda had taken another life, and now she needed to go down. I went to her home, and I made my move. The murder weapon, propped up right next to the door, like she could kill again at a moment's notice. Luckily, even monsters need sleep. And I got her in cuffs before she could even yawn. I arrested her for murder. All she had to say was, "Took you long enough. Cold bitch." I helped myself to the fairy bread in her fridge, and I gave her a parting gift. I turned in my first case with flawless results. My only regret? I was too slow to save unknown citizen. New Starch City, the capital slum of the States. People stumbled drunkenly through the streets. After my failed career as an enforcer, I was homeless, drinking right alongside the other impoverished in this hell. I had just solved my first case as a PI, and I decided I needed to change. I bought a small basement office and started to make a name for myself, right across from that apartment where a man was brutally gutted. A chilling reminder to actually become someone who does good for this city.
There it goes, risking 2 bulls just inches from the deck.
The first step? Finishing my business with Shauna Sams. I got in and knocked her and her partner out. But I forgot the cuffs. Giving them a reminder, I was still here instead. I wasn't perfect yet. I was hungry and thirsty, too broke to afford food or water. So I found an empty apartment, broke in, drank their milk, and ate raw pork. The milk and raw meat hurt my tummy, so I puked it right back up in their toilet. After all that puking, I had to refuel. I was standing around in the middle of the street when suddenly...
Officers, be advised, we have a 1054 on Yale Parade. Victim was DOA.
On my way to the crime scene, I got a phone call.
Is that James Burrow? Heard all about you. I got a body needs disappearing. You want to make some crows? Come clean it up. 1,500 crows when the job's done.
No way. I will find you, and I will catch you.
Shame. Until next time, James.
A woman shot dead in the middle of the street. I had no witnesses and no forensic evidence. I had no other choice but to check out her apartment. Her partner was home. I had to take her down in order to ensure that she wouldn't get in the way of my investigating. The only useful evidence? Her diary, containing vague descriptors of who the perpetrator might be. I only had two possible leads. The phone call I received right after the murder, and the cameras watching the street where the woman lied dead. The records of the phone call led me to a public payphone right down the street from the body, covered in fingerprints, all of them virtually untraceable. Another dead end. My next best bet, I checked the cameras overlooking the street. Nothing but several people. I marked down all of the women with long hair as per the victim's description. I got a hit on one of the people, Laura Colombo, but she didn't have an address in the directory. Another homeless person slipped between the cracks. I doubt she was involved with this. The other camera was just about as helpful as the last. A busy street, with too many faces to track them all down, even with the vague descriptions I have. It was a perfect crime. I had no leads and no evidence. Nothing except the small writings of a dead woman who couldn't say any more. I might have had to wait for another victim. I really had nothing. I was looking around on the floor for shells, casings, anything that could point me to the killer. On a whim, I decided to talk to a random person. In the middle of our brief conversation, right behind me, barely out of my line of sight, the killer struck again. Long, pink hair, drunk as a skunk. As if on cue, a woman walked right out of the midnight zone. Long, pink hair. Bingo. We had her dead to rights. Hold it. I'm arresting you under suspicions of murder.
You can't arrest me.
I try to take her out right then and there, but beating up a woman in the middle of a crowded street doesn't look too good to a random bypasser. I had to flee. She might have gone away, but I had her face. I asked some random person, and boom, a name. Miriam Chavez. With the victim's name, I tracked her down to her apartment. 2 floors directly above my very own office. 2 floors above my first murder. Something was going on in this building. I knocked on the door, and instead of her answering, it was her scrawny little boyfriend. I had to act quick. I took him out, and then I took out Chavez. A clean takedown, and a cleaner arrest. This one was open and shut. If only she hadn't slipped up. I'm arresting you on suspicions of murder.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Why did you commit these crimes?
I was trying to clean up the streets.
With the money from my most recent case, I was finally able to buy cuffs and put Sam's behind bars where she belongs. 2 criminals put away within the hour. With Sam's off the streets and my most recent murder solved, I had nothing better to do, so I picked up a job to arrest another person. Ryu. On my way to put away Rio, stopped for a soda pop and a hot dog. I made sure to throw both of them away in the dumpster, because if you litter, you might as well be committing murder against our very own planet. After all, I had nothing but time on my hands. There were no recent murders, and it's not like Ryu could flee the city. I will always find her no matter where she goes. This one, it was a simple matter. I had her name and that's all I needed. I looked her up in the city directory and went straight to her apartment. Broke in. And there she was, right in front of me. I took her out right then and there and placed her in cuffs. She wasn't nearly as conniving as Sam's. Another job done, and the city all the more safe because of it. While I was in her apartment, I did some sleuthing, went through her email, and I found something damning. Nanami Matsuda. Apparently they had matched on some dating site. No wonder the police wanted her in cuffs. She's after the cold hard psychos of this city. Another day, another arrest. This time, I ambushed a woman inside of her apartment. Something was wrong. Why weren't these people killing each other? There would have been a day when I've been arresting this woman for murdering her spouse instead of me having to beat the shit out of her in the foyer. I was hanging out in the midnight zone, getting wasted by a barrel fire and terrorizing the homeless. That's when I got my next murder.
All units be advised. We have a 1054 at 202 Brook Heights Hotel. Victim was DOA.
I was absolutely wasted off my ass, but crime would wait for nobody. I slipped and fell on my ass 3 times on my way to the courthouse, but that wouldn't stop me. As soon as I sobered up, I headed straight for the hotel. Before I even entered the room, I noticed a camera looking exactly at the door to the victim's apartment. Once I was inside, I inspected the cadaver. This one was a little bit more interesting. He had an entry wound from a gunshot, but the cause of death, a bladed weapon. I was still a little bit tipsy, and I slipped and fell into the victim's blood. I don't think he would mind if I used his shower real quick. The victim's partner got home. I decided it was time for me to leave. I had everything I needed. 3 sets of fingerprints, 3 sets of footprints, a camera, and a body. I decided to make my way down to the camera room and to see if the fucking idiot left themselves on the footage. Bingo. Right there at the victim's front door, right around the suspected time of death, an unknown citizen. Seems we had already caught our mark before this case ever even had a chance to get interesting. I asked someone in the hotel lobby if they had seen our murderer, and they were right around the Jensen building. Guess that's where I would be heading next. The first person I asked inside the building about our murderer wanted so little to do with me, they phased out of existence. Seems we have more to worry about than career criminals in this city. Second person I asked knew right away. Vance Hemingway. That was the man of our killer. Shouldn't be too hard to find now. As soon as I found Hemingway, started to get a little handsy. Felt up his pockets to see if he had any sharp objects that could poke me. Turns out he did, and he fucking cut me in the face. The next time, I was ready. I ambushed him in the bathroom while he was brushing his teeth. And less than an hour after he had committed his murder, I already had him in cuffs. I'm placing you under arrest for suspicions of murder.
Thank God. Please stop me before I do it again.
Why did you commit these murders?
They were in my way. Success is the only option.
After my most recent solve, I was done screwing around. I was ready to leave by any means necessary. I accepted a job for corporate espionage. When I dialed the number, it told me to answer the payphone at the Perky Mutineer Bar. I headed over there and picked up the payphone. Had to find some sealed documents in a red and brown envelope. They gave me a briefcase with any information about the mark. The information they gave me was vague at best. I knew their handwriting type and their first initial. I also knew they had short black hair. So, I did the most reasonable thing possible. I took down the name and address of every citizen in the city that started with an M. I actually did this, and it took me an unreasonable amount of time. About 30 minutes just to find all the names, get their addresses, and write them down. It was a total waste, to be honest. I'd finally gotten all the names of every person in the city who started with an M. Next step, I headed over to the city center, and I printed out all of the information about every single citizen, cross-referencing with what I had. After all of that work, I was left with about 7 prime suspects. The next step was breaking and entering into each and every single suspect's home. I even had to take a couple of them out during my search. Shouldn't have been home, I guess. During one of my searches, I got shot at. Seems these people were really the neighborly type. Didn't take too kindly to breaking and entering. But that didn't stop me. I continued my spree. I'd find this information at any cost. I'd already sunk in too much time into it. One of the houses, my next murder. This was probably the fastest solve in all of murder history. Started off by following my normal order of operations with footprints. I wasn't allowed on the scene when the enforcers were there, so I had to wait for them to clear her out. There were no cameras either. Would have to solve this one the old-fashioned way. Tried to lift some fingerprints on the door, but there were none on the outside. While I waited, talked to the neighbor, asked him if they'd seen anything. Nothing. Nothing at all. Somehow, none of my business at the same time. One of the enforcers was stealing pills out of the medicine cabinet. Not the crime I was here to solve, but a crime nonetheless. Once he cleared out, I was free to go in. Check the inside of the door for the fingerprints this time. I only got one hit, probably the victims. And a single print left behind the doorknob. Seamus. Upon inspecting the body, I had figured out they'd been shot. Between 4:15 and 5:30 a.m. Alexander was dead, and I had to solve his murder. There's a single shell casing on the floor. I checked it for prints, and there he was again. Seamus. That was our mark. Found him outside working in a food joint on the side of the road. Snuck up behind him and got him in cuffs. He still had the gun on him that he had used to commit the murder. Within 5 minutes of it being committed, it was already solved. Nothing noteworthy on this one. I already had his prints in the book. Went straight back to my other mission, though. Corporate espionage. And began breaking and entering yet again. After all of that, all of my main leads led me to nothing. An utter waste of time. So, I had 10 addresses left. Had to start taking those ones down one by one. I thought I had it this time. This was my 15th breaking and entering. But nothing. Had to leave the owner with a parting gift. Even went to her place of work. Played a little prank on our boss. Her coworker joined in on the fun. Turned off her computer before she could save her Word doc.
City living, getting down, need a bit of biz to take you higher. Grab it.
More break-ins,
Our new improved
more
dressing
knockouts.
is great for home, work, and play, giving you
But all of it led me nowhere. I finally decided to check an executive suite. Bingo. Probably should have checked that first. I don't know why low-pay employees would have classified documents. Tossed them into the ocean, and the job was done. My reward for 2 hours of hard detective work. I got 250 social updates and $4,000. I made 4 times as much breaking into people's houses. Picked up my missions of arresting random citizens for the enforcers. I was quickly on my way out of here.
On the pitch, a cast on dog. Haven't seen that since the Blues game in '79. Here comes the umpire.
One arrest after another.
And would you look at that? The pooch loves it. Now back to the game.
One step after another to finally being out of this shithole. I was turning in my arrest, and that's when it happened. Another murder. This time, I was already on the scene. The Sage Ward is upstairs in the hospital room. Cameras outside. And cameras inside. First thing I did was check them. And right there we had our perpetrator. Last person with the victim, standing in the room with the body. Went to her house, and I took her down. Another record solved. They're making it too easy, too boring. I only feel alive when I'm solving a real murder. And all of this is Baby Town Frolic, to be honest. It's disappointing. I was busy breaking into people's houses when it happened again. Another murder. Directly across the hall from the last one, and a floor right below where I was already staying. Check the cameras again. And there they were. 2 potential leads. Turns out our murderer was quite the magician. Left the lipstick they'd used to draw on the floor, floating in midair above the body. A fuck you to me and the victim. Somehow, 2 sets of fingerprints on the floating lipstick. Spoke with the receptionist downstairs, and they gave me all the information I needed. Short brown hair. Only one of the possible perpetrators matched that description, and we had our man. Another solve. Another boring solve. Got a name from his neighbor, Ruby Simpson. Turns out he was a she, and I was gonna bring her dumbass in. Looked her up in the city directory, and there she was. Fingerprints on the floating lipstick. Even got her address, and went straight to her home. And there she was. I made short work of her. And brought yet another lousy murderer in. These cases seem to just solve themselves. Seemed the city didn't even need me anymore. The murderers were lazy, and the arrests were too easy. Left me feeling hollow. I was waiting for the pawn shop to open, and then I got a call. Seems we had another one. 3 in one day. This person called me to see if I would even get rid of the body for them.
Hey Charlie, get me a deck of holy
But if they make it too easy, what was even the point? I had to bring him in myself.
Same thing as you.
Now look here.
Look where? Down.
On the scene of the crime, I searched the body. Another one shot. Low caliber ammunition. They even left me a little parting gift. Underneath the body, a cipher. Checked outside in the security office and broke into the computer and checked the cameras. Another 2 potential suspects. I asked somebody running downstairs if they knew one of them. Charisse Shabazz. It lined up perfectly with my cipher. I went to their address. See if I can find anything else.
8%. Starch, cola. 0.
Turns out they were home. Took them down just in case. Didn't even know if they were the actual murderer yet, but they certainly acted like one. On the counter, they had the weapon, a silenced pistol. Their handwriting even matched up with the cipher. Seems we had them dead to rights, yet again, and I put them in cuffs. After that solve, I had finally done it. I had finally gotten my social credit score high enough to retire. And I was fucking ready to get out of here. All I needed was somebody to leave my stuff to. Picked a homeless man on the street. First person that would tell me their name. Went through 3 different people and got nothing. On the 4th, they finally gave me something to work with. Zyka Hankerson. Just to double check, asked if they'd spot me a couple bucks. Imagine that. A homeless person giving me money. I had found my target to leave everything I owned to. Zyka Hankerson. Keep my city safe. Standard Station Shuttle 412, now leaving New Starch City. Destination, the fields. Passenger, James Sparrow.
Retirement confirmed. Employment terminated.